The idea is to create mass content that is, high end, realistic, fast, easy, and cost effective.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with C-Tech. Welcome Ron Kern, co-founder and CEO of Augmind. From a BA in computer science and business in Israel to a master's in CS from BU, Ron then spent a decade on Wall Street and then back to Israel for another decade in technology startups, focusing on creating unique and strategic alliances. Ron is now geared at setting new boundaries for augmented reality content and apps and set new standards for what you are about to see digitally with the goal of paving the way for mass AR adaption. Ron Kern, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you today?
Good. Hi, Michael. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me in these next 20 minutes, talking about one of my favorite subjects. Zuckerberg recently started talking about the metaverse and everybody's going crazy. So obviously, anybody that's working on augmented reality, mixed reality worlds, this is, the time to do so. And that's why I'm very excited to have this conversation right now. You're the co-founder and CEO of Augmind. And I'm excited to hear a little bit about, what the company is doing. But even before that, taking a look at your background, you've done a lot of different things, most of them not even related to augmented reality and mixed reality. So tell me a little bit about, your own background and how you ended up converging into this augmented reality space.
Sure. It started in Israel, academics. It was a bachelor's in computer science and in admin, and then moved to Boston, went to grad school at Boston University, and did my master's in computer science there. And then worked for another decade on Wall Street. So a whole different background altogether. I was working with all the major hedge funds, all the big banks. And then about a decade ago, I moved back to Startup Nation to Tel Aviv, Israel, and did a switch from, financial Wall Street to working on ad tech startups and so forth. And about 5 years ago, I started to, implement and start working with mixed reality technologies. It was interesting trying to bring the ad tech world into mixed reality, which was, way ahead of its time back then. But that's kind of like when I started to, play with these technologies, and it was so interesting, and, it was mind boggling back at the, even today. But then, you think about so many different things that, where you can take it and so forth. And augmented reality was, just, getting started, with its big boom. Virtual reality has been around also, but was predominantly in games. And then later on, AR is starting to be, implemented across a lot of different, industries and across a lot of different verticals.
So deciding to create this new company in augmented reality now, why now? So you started mentioning about everything that's happening, with the world, but why is this the best time for you as an entrepreneur to go and say, yes, I'm ready. This is the best time for us to do what we're doing?
Actually, let's backtrack for a second. We started the company about 3.5 years ago. So it was ahead of its time, and back then, we were trying to pitch to investors what we're trying to do, and it was really early. So it was really difficult to understand what we were trying to accomplish back then. Nowadays, it's a whole different story. You mentioned Zuckerberg earlier, and, we're seeing a lot of big companies trying to bring us into these technologies. Some focus on the hardware and the AR glasses and VR glasses and the head mount display and so forth, and others on content, metaverse being part of it and so forth. And it's tricky. It sounds charming and it sounds awesome, but there's a lot of different challenges along the way. And from the get-go, we were set to, make it easier for everyone to do so. So when we started, we were a little bit early. But nowadays it makes sense because what we're essentially trying to do is make AR creation, the content creation and app development easier for everyone. If you're looking at like experienced people, skillful people today, that they're hard to find, and they're a must when it comes to creating content and apps for these kind of technologies and for building metaverse and so forth. Augmind is essentially building a platform so it's easier for not necessarily experienced people to do it. Students from university, there's a very short learning curve and so forth. We can get into it in a second, but the idea is to create mass content that is, high-end, realistic, fast, easy, and cost-effective. So the adaptation of AR and VR is going to be different because, you settle for different things today, but when you look at what you can do with Augmind, it takes you to a whole new different ballgame. So it also created a different adaptation of these technologies across all millennials and different generations, and, everyone's going to use it.
Right. Now, give me maybe a few examples of how one might use Augmind either in their studies and their work. I'm understanding that, one of the pain points that you're solving here is that a lot of these technologies for the next foreseeable future, they're going to require some proprietary knowledge and some expertise in order to really create these immersive experiences that are high quality. And so you're bridging the gap, sort of like Wix for websites, Canva for designs, Augmind for augmented reality and mixed reality. What are some interesting use cases in those domains?
So if you're focused for a minute on the entities, the companies, the studios, the developers, those who are in charge of creating these apps and these kind of contents, right. Who are our target audience in the first stage, is that in a lot of cases you're talking about, technical people, creative people, a lot of different positions within that studio, within that company who are in charge of the entire production process. And in many cases, you're actually looking for people who have a lot of experience and know what they're doing, because essentially one of the main problems today is that, if you're trying to create 3D content, right? Essentially, it's all 3D content. It's either 3D content for mobile devices or AR, VR, but it's all 3D. And one of the major problems is that, if you're trying to create a content. Let's take a car, for example. If you're trying to model a car and show it in AR and you want it to look real, just like the real thing, it's kind of difficult because it's really heavy. The content, when you create it, it's so heavy that it cannot run or perform on mobile devices like your smartphone or head-mount display and so forth. So what developers trying to do is start reducing the level of the content. In technical terms, mean reducing polygons, etc. This is just one example of many, but this is one of the major problems. So by reducing those polygons, eventually they can at least adapt that content to run on your mobile device. So you can look at the AR content or app from your mobile phone or your VR AR glasses. And that's time consuming, it's costly, and eventually that car doesn't really look like it should in reality. So you also sell for the graphics.
Completely. If you're looking at the next few years, sort of as a defining time for, I think, the future of AR, VR, and mixed realities, where are we heading? As a society, consumer behavior. You're talking about a lot of these use cases that right now, we may be able to imagine them, but I think most of society is still wrapping their head around, how is this actually going to play in the actual world? How do you foresee consumer behavior shifting in the next few years?
Let's look at it two different directions that coincide. One being the hardware, the other being the content, the software. The hardware is how you're going to look at it. Are you going to use, start carrying your phone around like this and look at it like that, or start putting, the head mount display. The ones that exist today are too bulky. You can't really walk around with them in the street, right? So you have to use your phone. Next generation is a lighter device that's going to have the content transmitted from your mobile phone. So you're still going to have to carry both. You're going to carry your smartphone in your pocket. It's going to transmit And eventually, it's going to be just like, your average sunglasses and the CPU and the GPU, everything's going to be on it, hopefully very soon. But those kind of hardwares have their own limitations in terms of the chips, the processing units, the CPU and the GPU. So they're heavily dependent on what you're going to play on them, and hence the content. What is it that you're going to play? I believe that everything is going to be on it eventually. You're going to stop using your smartphone. The new platform is going to move from smartphones to smart glasses, and everything is going to be here. And there's so many reasons to it. One being is that, your entire view is larger, right? It's not just your screen from your phone. You can see everything. Plus, you don't have to hold it. You don't have to carry it. It's plugged into your ears and your eyes and everything, so it's so much easier. We need to get there. We need to get there soon, and content has to follow. If you're going to come up tomorrow with the best headset, you're still going to need to provide value for that device for it to work, for users to buy it and start using it. So it all coincides, and we're seeing already today that a lot of different industries are using AR and VR for marketing, for innovation, increase their ROI. We had COVID, and, with different waves, and, stores closed around the world and companies looking for new ways of selling, etc. So it's shifting. You're already seeing that shift from, just, regular website on the internet, to being able to actually see, feel, try on your new shoe, etc. So I think everything eventually is going to be there. We're going to coincide the real human beings with avatars. We're going to have, virtual conference calls. We're already seeing the visions of a lot of different companies talking about it, but it's in the making, it's in the happening. And I think that, this is really the best time to jump on that game.
So obviously, I can't ignore the passion and excitement that you're with which you're talking right now. Where is this stemming from? Where is this excitement coming from right now for you?
Several directions. For starters, the team that we've built internally is a phenomenal team. I've been in multiple startups in the past decade. And what we did in Augmind, we built a family here. We built people that are so connected to each other, and we're having fun. We're creating things that arguably some of them don't even exist yet, and it's intriguing and challenging, but we're having fun doing it. So I think one, this is, an important indication. The other is when you actually finally, got to build it. We raised a few $1 million. We've advanced. We created our initial product. We went to AWE a couple weeks ago, which is the largest AR VR conference in the world. Show big companies what we can do, and the eyes popped and said, well, we never knew this kind of content existed. So we got some validation that what we're doing is amazing and on the right track. It's all combined. So, God willing, we're on the right path.
If you had to guess or estimate, what are some of the most crucial challenges that you're going to be facing yourself with your company in the next short while? What are some of those?
For starters, finding good people. You probably heard, you've probably seen, all the big companies that are running into, their new next metaverse and so forth. They're going to need a lot of good people. I mean, hopefully that's also where Augmind is going to fit in and help them bridge that gap. But you need good people and good talent to build these kind of technologies. One of the main challenges. I think that some of the usual challenges, if you will, for startups is, fundraising, marketing, doing the right execution. Even if you have the right team and the right, capital, you still need to have the right execution. And that depends on how well you succeed doing that. So we try to bridge in, the right plans, make sure we have the right plans. We're so far, thank God we're spot on the plans, and Just waiting for it to happen.
I love it. I love it. And so if, for all the other young entrepreneurs that are, starting to think about augmented reality or mixed realities as, a reality for a startup, what are some basic things that you would recommend them to look into or to think more critically about consumer behavior before they go on this journey? Because we're looking at a blue ocean right now. We're looking at a new space, a new field with that there's a lot of mess to be made of, which is very exciting, but it's also frightening on some level. So what would be some of your recommendations there?
I'll try to make sure that you understand the market first. Understand where we're going, where the markets are going, what is needed, and try to foresee what's going to come up in the very near future. And I mean 5 years down the road. I mean right around the corner. And especially in these technologies, things move so fast, so rapidly. So you don't need to try to envision what's going to happen 3 years from now. Just look at 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road, understand the markets. It's easy. It's not hard. Everything is out there, is available. People talk about it all the time, and come up with an idea, a solution, that's going to change people's lives. With one major advice on that front. Don't try to change the entire world tomorrow. Okay. Even if you have that vision, at least come up with an intermediate solution that is quick and short to implement. So it's even easier for you. Because when we were 3.5 years ago and we tried to envision what we're going to do today, it was so big. And it took a lot of time to convince people that we're on the right path because we were ahead of the time. And so if you have a good intermediate idea that you can easily implement, that's going to give you a lot of credit and also give you, a lot of different options to think about. Are you really heading the right direction? If Completely. We would have done it then, it's probably going to solve a lot of the problems that we were facing earlier.
I love it. And if you go back to your childhood a little bit, really young, elementary school, middle school, what are you curious about? What really fascinated you as a kid? And is it connected at all to what you're doing today?
I think so. Well, I was really social. And I love people. I love making friends, talking to everyone, and it was it was interesting to talk to people and see also what their vision, where they're going, come up with ideas together. We even had our own startup, back at college that we started up and came up with amazing ideas. But I think it's kind of like, when you're meeting interesting people and you're brainstorming, you talk about, mutual ideas. And I think that's one of the things that fascinated me most.
I love it. And if you look today at your day-to-day as an entrepreneur of an early stage startup, where's the inspiration coming from? Literally where's the inspiration today morning, yesterday morning, to do what you're doing and to go against all the different challenges that obviously you're facing, and there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of credit in, doing your own thing. So, I know it's kind of like a given, but it's true. It's also a lot more difficult than just being, a 9-to-5er and so forth. But you have an idea, you have a vision, and you get to build it. How fascinating is that? I mean, you have ideas all the time, even if you're working, at the banks on Wall Street. You have your ideas. And even if you're working at startups, you come up with other ideas, so forth. But still, there's another captain to that ship, and they're navigating that ship. And your ideas, a lot of times, they're left behind, and you're still, tied to that ship. You get to run your own ship, and with all the challenges that come with that and the responsibility. But that is fascinating because it is up to you, and you have there's a lot of interesting ways where you can shift and navigate that. And I think this is one of the coolest things that's happening, for us, for entrepreneurs in a startup. You have to be smart, you have to be quick, and you have to, know what you're doing, and you have to, portray it the right way. And there's so many other challenges, so forth, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's yours. It's your dream.
I love it. And thank you so much for spending these 20 minutes with me. I think that augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, it's going to eat the world by storm. I think the question is when. And we started the conversation with a question of timing, and I think you may be right, and we're going to discover that soon. And I think that it's going to be an uphill battle no matter what, because it's shifting consumer behavior, and there's a lot of market education. And I love the approach that you're taking towards enabling that consumer behavior change. So Ron, thank you very, very much. Best of luck with Augmind. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.